Hi, everyone. Welcome to Summer EBT and Indian Tribal Organizations, a deep dive with the Chickasaw Nation. I'm Steve Hayward, FRAC's Communications Manager. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few brief housekeeping items. We expect this webinar to run about 60 minutes. We are recording the presentation and will send the recording and slides in a follow-up email. Closed captioning is available. To turn captions on, select Show Captions in the bottom taskbar and select English as the spoken language. We'll have time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. To ask a question at any time, please use the Q&A tab also in the bottom taskbar. With that, I'll pass it off to Kelsey Boone, Senior Child Nutrition Policy Analyst at FRAC. Take it away, Kelsey.
Thanks so much, Steve. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar. We're really excited to dive in and get all this information on Summer EBT and Indian tribal organizations. Next slide. So we're going to start with a little bit of introductions and overview, and then I will touch on Summer EBT at a national level and kind of how we got here and the state of play for 2025. And then I will hand it over to Kelly to talk about Summer EBT on tribal lands. And then Joy will take it over and talk about lessons learned and best practices from Chickasaw Nation. And then FRAC will come back with some policy recommendations, and we will then turn to question and answer. Next slide. So I want to introduce our speakers. First is Kelly Case, Senior Staff Attorney, Indigenous Food and Agriculture Initiative at the University of Arkansas School of Law. And the second is Joy Standridge, Director of Child Nutrition of Nutrition Services for the Chickasaw Nation. And we're very excited to have them both here today. Next slide. All right, so Summer EBT as a whole. So what happens during the summer months? During the summer months, students tend to lose access to school meals that they have during the school year, which leads to higher rates of food insecurity and food insufficiency amongst children. That causes increased vulnerability to accelerated weight gain, increases in BMI, as well as obesity, and can also lead to learning loss throughout the summer. The summer nutrition programs, the traditional ones, offer free meals to students during the summer, but are very limited in how many children they reach. And Summer EBT can really step in and help fill that gap. So Summer EBT is a permanent and nationwide program that started in summer of 2024, and it provides $120 per child per summer period on an EBT card to use for groceries. This program is a complement to the summer nutrition programs and helps to reduce food insecurity for low-income households, particularly in rural areas or areas with low access to those summer meal sites. Next slide. So Summer EBT began with what they called demonstration projects. So these programs began in 2011, and the first year, 12,500 families were provided with grocery benefits, and these programs expanded to serve different states and Indian tribal organizations over the next few years. At its peak, the Summer EBT demonstration program served 279,000 children with about $8.4 million in benefits. And the studies done on these demonstration projects found that it decreased childhood food insecurity and improved nutrition for those that participated in the programs. Next slide. So the first year of Summer EBT participation was in 2024. So that was the first year the program ran. And that first year, over 21 million children received over $2.5 billion in benefits. In that first year, 37 states, the District of Columbia, all 5 U.S. territories, and 2 Indian tribal organizations ran the program. And they are the Cherokee Nation and the Chickasaw Nation. Tennessee and Indiana participated in 2024, but have opted not to run the program this year in 2025. Next slide. And just looking at the map of states that are participating this summer, we do have 37 states. DC, 5 Indian tribal organizations and 5 US territories participating this summer. As I stated in the last slide, Tennessee and Indiana opted not to participate, but we also had Alabama and Utah opt to participate this summer. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kelly.
So come on, folks. As Kelsey mentioned, my name is Kelly Case. I'm an attorney with the Indigenous Food and Ag Initiative, and I'm also a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation. Not employed by them. Joy's going to get to tell you all about the Chickasaw Nation's program, but I'm particularly excited as a citizen to get to hear her perspective. I get to join you today to tell you about Summer EBT more from the 30,000-foot view when we're talking about nutrition programming in Indian country. Go to the next slide. And a little bit about our organization, if you haven't heard of us before. Just over 11 years old. There's our beautifully thought out mission statement there. I could tell you the short version is we get to serve as Indian country's ag nerds on call, working with producers, tribal governments, tribal subject matter experts all across the country in whatever capacity we can to help them reach their goals. Move to the next slide. All right, we'll do a quick set everybody up for success because we're going to talk about Indian country a lot today. So there is a formal legal definition of Indian country, right, that encompasses specifically land-based situations. So we're talking about land within a reservation, trust land, restricted land. When we talk about Indian country broadly, though, as you'll hear me do several times today, that's more than just the land, right? Those are the tribal governments, the tribal communities on and off reservation, wherever they find themselves. Another important note, there are over 570 tribes across the nation. So we're using this really broad language, but I want folks to understand how much variability there is within that. Every tribe is its own government and will be organized in its own fashion with its own citizens and its own priorities and goals. So we have the fantastic opportunity to hear from one specific tribe today, and I'll give you some overview stats, but as you continue in your work, please account for do a little research, work with the tribes in your area. I think you'll have a much better opportunity to learn and understand from them specifically what their circumstances are. So those are the big caveats to start with. Discussions of Indian country, but here's some stats to start off with, which is that we know that food insecurity rates in Indian country are more than double the national average from a report from USDA last summer. Looking at average rates of about 28% as opposed to 13% for the national average, which lets us know how necessary programs like Summer EBT and other federal feeding programs are for serving not only tribal citizens, but all eligible folks within their jurisdictions. Go to the next slide. All right, let's talk specifically about Summer EBT in Indian country. So tribes have a whole bunch of additional considerations as they're working through this program. At the top of your mind, I want you to keep that they are already successful in spite of all of these additional steps in serving not only eligible students within their service areas who are their citizens, but all eligible students within their service areas. Some of the particular considerations are around eligibility. The statute says those ITOs participating in WIC, of the 570, we know that number is not 570 that are doing that, so there's a consideration there. I'll also point to the matching requirements. There is a 50% administrative match requirement that goes with administering Summer EBT, and that is a substantial hurdle for any administering agency. These can be met with some creative problem solving from tribes. I'll also point to the fact that in other feeding programs, there are formats for matching requirements that offer more flexibility, things like waivers for financial hardship or alternative federal funding as matching funds that is sometimes used in other nutrition programming. That is not the case under this particular statute, but this hurdle has been met with some really creative problem solving by the folks out in Indian country. I'll also point to program design. If you've joined us today, you may be from a state agency or somebody who's handling administering staff. This program is designed in consideration of mostly that configuration, right? Because it's mostly states who are utilizing this program. Tribes are operating in a different manner, right? And so the variability in governance structure, variability in their approaches may not be perfectly aligned with a one size fits all program design set forth here. Considerations to be had there. I will also point to collaboration. Working in Indian country means you've got to collaborate with folks, simply. But in the case of tribes administering this program, often that means they have to collaborate with one another, right? If we have historical relationships and lessons learned from one another. And that often is a great benefit, to be able to learn from one another and build upon your successes and to be able to serve each other's citizens where appropriate. It also might mean collaborating with a state agency where there's geographic overlap. So taking into account those additional steps, right? If you're an ITO thinking about administering this program, we're adding to here are some considerations as you move forward. Go to the next slide. Oh, well, we skipped right through. Here's the high and the low part. If you're looking for more information about my organization, you can find it there. This program is essential, particularly in feeding food insecure families, where we see a higher rate of that in Indian country. Tribes are already successful serving all the folks in their jurisdictions, in spite of the fact that they've had to overcome these additional considerations. And as in all places, there's a greater opportunity for support and flexibility and technical assistance that is specifically designed to serve tribes as they are serving their citizens and others in their community. And now we get to hear from Joy all the great work that they're doing at Chickasaw Nation to help make that happen.
Thank you, Kelly. Chicma, Sahel Chipoet, Joy Standridge, Chikashapoya. I'm the Director of Child Nutrition within Chickasaw Nation's Nutrition Services Department. And I've had the privilege of serving in the Chickasaw Nation for 20 years and have had the honor of leading our Summer EBT program from its inception in 2011. And then we have operated and grew significantly over a 12-year period. The first year, the size of our demonstration caseload was roughly 5,000 children. And after 12 years, in the summer of 24, which was the first year of permanency, we had grown to 90,000 children. It's a little over that, but that's a significant amount of growth over the course of 12 years. Through the years, we have partnered with other tribes and Hunger Free Oklahoma to assist in becoming fully operation on their own. This year, Choctaw Nation and Muskogee Creek Nation have started administering the Summer EBT program within their tribal reservations. And I'm very proud of the collaboration, partnership, technical assistance, open sharing that the tribes in our state have done together, and really consider 2024 a large success. With the passage of the Consolidated Appropriations Act in December of 23, the Summer EBT program was made permanent, and that was the first federal nutrition program to be made permanent in 50 years. Chickasaw Nation, we are thrilled to see tribes who administer the WIC program be given the opportunity to administer the Summer EBT program directly as a state agency. This government-to-government relationship affirms our tribal sovereignty. And this is an exciting time to impact the food security of children who feel the absence of meals during the summer months. I will be sharing some key consideration that Chickasaw Nation learned during the first year of permanency in 2024. Next slide. There are several administrative approaches that tribes will need to consider while they are strategizing about implementing a Summer EBT program. And one of the most significant considerations, and Kelly Case, she touched on this as well, is the 50% cash match. This cash match is on administrative funding only. And due to the timing of the passage of the legislation in 23, it occurred in December. The short time frame to request the match for 24 operations was very short. and it did not align with our tribal funding cycle. And because it is such a significant burden, and we were already a large program, I just wanted to give you a rough estimate of what our budget was. So administratively, we have a $2 million budget, and 50% we had to request roughly 1 million, and the food funds were granted 10 million. So what we stress to our tribal leadership is the significant return on investment of the dollars that go right back into the local economy, but also support the future and nourish our children and all the communities within our tribal area. The most important return on investment is the future nutritional health of our children. Research shows that food insecurity among children has a long-term impact on issues like graduation rates, healthcare costs, and future job readiness. And when children receive the nutrition they need, they are better able to break the cycle of poverty and grow up healthy, strong, and ready to compete in today's economy. Summer EBT is very important, critical part of helping with food access. And once this return on investment and that you are impacting the future health of your tribe, it's very easy to see the return on investment. Next slide, please. There are other lessons learned and choices that tribes will need to make as they prepare for implementing the permanent summer EBT program. There's different ways to administer your food package, and also ways in which you should collaborate with the WIC program. During the demonstration years, we realized the flexibility in the summer EBT food package needs to be part of your planning process. The guidance that the Food and Nutrition Service will share that there's multiple options. However, it's very technology laden when you operate a WIC model food package. And during the demonstration years, the Summer EBT program always shared an authorized product list and a banking identification number with our WIC program. And because of the short implementation time frame, we chose to retain that model. However, the WIC program uses a nutrition assessment and is much more strict in their food offerings so that the nutritional assessment is impacted. And then for summer EBT, we have school-age children with a very broad nutritional background, and we want to consider as we move forward a separate bin number along with a separate authorized product list so that we can increase flexibility and variety for the client. During the demonstration years, we had a very different model as far as active consent, and everyone who applied, they actively chose to participate in the program. And so the redemption rates were higher than the first year of permanency. And as you make it easier and work with school districts so that families don't have to make an application and you change to passive enrollment, you have a lot of people who may be unaware that benefits are being issued. And so we have seen the redemption rates decrease, and we have a lot of thoughts and ideas of how to further increase redemptions as you move to passive enrollment. The other areas that benefit from collaboration are referrals and nutrition education. We work closely within the federal suite of programs, WIC, our farmers market program, and our food distribution program on Indian reservations. also the summer food service program and child and adult care food program. All of these should complement one another, and participants should maximize all of the benefits that are allowed to them, so that it increases the food budget for themselves that they use with their own food dollars. The most significant overlap with our WIC program is in the area of vendor contracting and vendor monitoring, and our EBT processing contract. There is a lot of shared responsibility between programs, and the training burden with grocery store staff, troubleshooting technology issues, and so forth. We spend a great deal of time working with our WIC program to help meet the needs of our grocery store community, and as well as our participants. Next slide. As I previously shared during our early demonstration years, our summer EBT program used our WIC infrastructure and technology by leveraging original source code from our WIC MIS system as a jumping off place to build a separate database for summer EBT. And as summer EBT became permanent, we realized that we needed to consider a robust MIS system, and one that can specifically address the needs of the summer EBT program and be able to issue benefits on demand, along as well as our communication needs with our clients. So we started developing an enterprise system that could meet those needs. And it took several adjustments through the years, and with our staffing structure as well as the technology structure. And we recommend a separate and dedicated summer EBT staff structure that is independent from the day-to-day operation of the WIC program. The requirements of the WIC program already have a large administrative burden on their own, and summer EBT requires year-round work and it's not conducive to include within the scope of the WIC program. So we have greatly benefited in the Chickasaw Nation that we are peer programs with peer staff, and we're able to fully dedicate to the summer EBT program operations. As tribes become permanent, that is an important consideration, and we've seen some challenges with different structures, and so we always advocate for a separate and distinct staff and to collaborate closely with our WIC program. We also recommend visiting with peers and glean all of the lessons learned, and do not start from scratch. We have a lot of contract examples, invitations to bid, and technology guidance that we all have benefited from sharing with one another. Right now, we meet bi-weekly with other tribes in our state, and we are continually sharing what works in one situation may work in another. We even help with crafting the plan of management and our implementation plan of management. The policies are still in an interim phase, and so it feels like we implement, we learn, the guidance is revised, we implement, and that cycle is still early in its process, and regulations are not made final yet. So there's still a lot of opportunity to impact and influence the future regulations for the program. This year in 2025, I mentioned the passive consent process and requiring a significant amount of work with school districts, and also data the school districts provide. Seeking data, sharing agreements for direct access is paramount for the future success of this program. Next slide. Some of the suggestions for success, and there are many, but it's easier just to give a high-level overview, and then as you may want to connect, please feel free to reach out to our program. We have to recommend that at least a planning year. I think in some instances you may actually need longer than that, but there are grant funds available to assist a tribe in the first 12 months, and then you move towards implementation. The good news about the permanent program is the Summer EBT program is available when tribes are ready. And so there is not pressure to implement before a tribe has everything in place. And it's normal for the planning process to potentially take longer than a year to identify matching resources. We've had communication with tribes because we're all structured differently. Sometimes it may align and that process is shortened when asking for a match, and then others it may take a little bit longer. The other significant area is that you have to have a strong project manager or manager of the program, because there are so many different steps to begin operations. And if you do not have that strong project manager in place, or if it's divided between the WIC program and the Summer EBT program, it can be easily underestimated the length of time all of these contractual processes and going out for bid and testing and implementing your technology. And it really cannot be understated to have at least a year-long planning process. In our state, our geographic partner that we usually work with, the state of Oklahoma, they made a decision not to administer the program. All of our school districts in the state of Oklahoma submit data to the state of Oklahoma. The tribes in our state do not have direct access to that database. We are working towards that, but the Chickasaw Nation in 2024, we had 183 separate memorandums of understanding, so separate contracts in place with each of the school districts so that we could freely access the student free and reduced meals data. That is a very large undertaking, and it's unfortunate that we've had to work around, but it just shows the capacity of tribes that we have the ability on our own, and we are developing a statewide database so that we don't have to continue to have that ongoing administrative burden of contracting with school districts individually. Hopefully in the future, the state of Oklahoma will join us at the table, and then we would be able to leverage that single database. But in the meantime, I just want to encourage tribes that if your state does not administer Summer EBT on their own, that there is a viable path. And so don't let that be a discouragement. And we have found school districts eager to work with us and eager to provide food access to their students. We leveraged our existing WIC contracts in grocery stores. We added language that specifically mentions Summer EBT, but instead of having grocery stores have a separate WIC contract and a separate Summer EBT contract, they have one, and we as a nation make sure that both programs are included. We did the same for our EBT processing contract. Again, I would encourage you to reach out to the Food and Nutrition Service as well as different tribes, so that you can receive example documents from everything like job descriptions, client and vendor training, school district MOUs. We have project management timelines and so forth. The Chickasaw Nation and other Summer EBT agencies are very willing and happy to share and want other tribes to be successful in your Summer EBT experience. In closing, Summer EBT provides a considerable return on investment for the future nutritional well-being and health of our children. Summer EBT helps children from low-income families who are among the most vulnerable in our community, especially in rural and hard-to-reach communities. And children participating in Summer EBT are better able to start the school year healthy and ready to learn. Thank you to FRAC and the Indigenous Food and Agriculture Initiative for allowing the Chickasaw Nation to share its Summer EBT experience and reflect on our first year of permanency in the Summer EBT program. Thank you for being such collaborative partners, supporting our tribal sovereignty and working with us to reach more of our tribal communities with this valuable program. And we're looking forward to positive Summer EBT outcome in future years.
Wow, thank you so much, Joy, for all of that information. We are going to shortly be moving into question and answer. So if you can start putting your questions in the Q&A function, that would be great. Next slide, Steve. I'm going to take just a few minutes to talk about some of the policy recommendations and the advocacy opportunity that we currently have. So based on a lot of the conversation and things that we have learned, obviously we need to have both statutory and regulatory changes that can lead to better and easier participation by Indian tribal organizations across the country. Those could be reducing or eliminating the 50% administrative match on the statutory side, or changing statutory language to allow for tribes that are running nutrition programs other than WIC to participate in the program. And on the regulatory side, aligning program and reporting requirements with programs outside of SNAP and considering the capacity of non-state entities whenever thinking through the processes of Summer EBT, as well as providing specific technical assistance that is aimed at tribal implementation. We know that FNS was very involved in technical assistance especially in the first year of implementation, but we would love to see more support on the non-state side for technical assistance. So FRAC is going to be working on some of these priorities moving forward and advocating for some of these priorities. But I wanted to bring up the current advocacy opportunity that we have right now, which is the Stop Child Hunger Act of 2025. While it doesn't address all of these policy recommendations, it does get at the 50% administrative match and trying to reduce that and phase that in. So at least it would provide some runway for non-state and states and non-state entities to implement this program. So that is a piece of this act, as well as providing additional money for funds for implementation grants to help better systems and get Indian tribal organizations as well as states and territories on the right track for moving forward. So if you can contact in our follow-up, it will include all of the slides, and we have a list of the Senate and House co-sponsors of this bill that are linked in this slide that you will be able to access then. If you do not see your senators or your House representatives, we do encourage you to reach out to them and urge them to support and sign on to this bill to move it forward. And so we are now, next slide, we're going to move into our question and answer. I believe we currently have one question. Joy, do you know what redemption rate you are seeing in your program, or at least did in 2024?
Yes, so I touched briefly on the 2024 year. We had seen a very high redemption rate, as much as 90% in the active consent model. So passive enrollment is new to us. and we realized that the rate took a significant drop. We were around the 65%. Now in 25, we realized that working with school districts and helping them improve the data during school enrollment is a very critical activity. And so we know that we can further improve that redemption rate. I think right now, so many families are new to Summer EBT and they may not even receive the card if their address, we have a lot of movement with our clients. But if the address or the phone number, that's how we have been successful in increasing the redemptions, is to communicate by text message and let them know their balances, reaching out to them to really determine, do you need help shopping? Do you understand the foods available, and so on. But there's a significant area for improvement that we're looking forward to working on.
That method is very, very good for, making sure that redemption rates stay as high as possible. I know that a lot of families either forget or don't have the right access, and just any reminders is very helpful, as we have seen across the board. So thank you for sharing that. Are there any other questions? If so, please put them in the question and answer. And as always, you can reach out to any of us to ask any questions after the presentation. We will be sending a follow-up email within the next few days with the slides, as well as links to the case study that will be published in the next few days. So whenever we have that link, we will be sending out the follow-up email that will include the link to the case study. All right, Steve, can you go on to the next slide? As I am not seeing any more questions, I will assume that everyone is happy with the information that they received today. I want to thank both Kelly and Joy for joining us today. This has been a wonderful information-filled session, and I'm really excited to have this case study published and have all the information out there for access for everyone. This is just a link to some of FRAC's Summer EBT resources. But like I said, the case study should be shared out in the next few days. So we're very excited to share that with all of you. And we thank you all for joining us today. And we hope that you have a good rest of your day and rest of your week. Happy Monday, everyone.